Welcome back. With us being in the middle of the warm season up here in the Northern Hemisphere, this is also racing season. And today I've got another great Tag Heuer that we're going to be talking about. This one is commemorative of the F1 Formula races. Come back and listen, learn all about it. All right, today we're going to be talking about a Tag Heuer Carrera. Now this is a very limited production model. This is the Monaco Grand Prix edition. There were only 2,500 of them ever made. It is a part of the Formula One series that they race. A couple of things that I would like to just give you a brief overview. It is a 43 millimeter case, and that is going to be PVD coated titanium. Again, that's going to be that, physical vapor deposition, talking about how they get the black and the extra layers to attach to the metal itself. But in line with racing, this is a very light watch, something that does fit comfortably on your wrist. Now, I mentioned that there were only 2,500 made. This particular one happens to be undriven. Unworn is what we would call it in our world. But this is a watch that has never been on someone's wrist, that has not been taken to the track and put through the rigors and tests of what it can actually live up to. But I want to step back a little bit and talk a little bit more about this Monaco Grand Prix. Now, for those of our viewers and listeners that have been watching some of our videos, I've done another video on the Tag Heuer Carrera, some of the, the history of it, talking about the Carrera Panamericana. Well, this watch is about a completely different, circuit, if you will, but it's still a part of the Carrera line. It's a part of the racing family or collection of watches from Tag Heuer. But the Circuit de Monaco, which is where the Monaco Grand Prix is held, is in the country of Monaco, which happens to be the second smallest country by physical size, second only to the Vatican City. Now, this country of Monaco is located on the northern shore of the Mediterranean Sea. It's completely surrounded by France, and it's only a few miles, about 10 miles from the border of Italy. So if you're curious where this race happens, it's going to be in that, that more southern part of Europe. It's going to be that portion of the world. Now, the current track it's a little over 2 miles. And of course, this race has been going on since 1929. So as the streets have been adapted and repaved and slightly, changing of where the roads are going, the race has also changed. So it's not the exact same layout, but it's very similar to what it was. Again, it's a very small country, so there's not a lot of room to put a really large track. But the race itself, even though the lap is only 2 miles, the race is a little over 160 miles. Now, we currently have I believe there's like a minimum for F1. It's 190 miles is the minimum. This is the only race that is below that threshold. And I do believe that is because it was kind of grandfathered in since it's such a historical part of the culture. Now, similar to the Carrera Panamericana, this is a very dangerous race. Now, it goes through the narrow streets of the city. There's a whole bunch of elevation changes. There are tight corners, and there's even a tunnel that you have to go through. If you look up some of the maps of it, it goes along the water, lots of boats, lots of people, very narrow streets. Now, there is this unofficial achievement in the world of motorsports. I call it unofficial because it's not an officially designated award that you receive as a part of the racing community, but it's something that all of the followers and people that are really fans of the sport have kind of created this achievement, and they call it the Triple Crown of Motorsport. Now, if you're familiar with sports in general, Triple Crown obviously refers to horse racing and the three big races of all of the horse races that occur. Now, the Triple Crown of Motorsport is slightly different. Obviously, we're not talking about horses. We've got horsepower, but we're not actually talking about physical beings. So the Triple Crown of Motorsport includes the Indy 500, which a lot of our viewers are going to be familiar with, the 24 Hours of Le Mans, which is an endurance race that, as you can guess, lasts 24 hours on one racetrack. And then we've got the Monaco Grand Prix. These are going to be the three most prestigious races that society is kind of deemed as the ultimate winners. If you can win all three of these, you're like the ultimate champion. Now, Only one person has ever won all three of them. Did not happen in the same year, but he goes by the name of Graham Hill. At least that's what the internet told me. And he won the Monaco Grand Prix back in 1969. Now, if you go online, you can find where you'll see that he's the only one that's won all three. And you'll see a bunch of people that have won 2 out of 3 or 1 out of 3. But there's another little like graph or chart that'll show how many people have competed in all three. And while Graham Hill is the only one that has won all three, tons of people had the opportunity to take home that crown. Now, I do want to talk about the watch itself. I'd love to talk about racing all day, and this is a very fascinating racing watch. And again, it is a 43 millimeter titanium case. It does have a titanium bezel that has the tachymeter, engraved on it, so you can use it for, standard timekeeping and mathematical functions that you would want to use in association with driving or racing. It does have an automatic self-winding movement with an exhibition caseback. And if we look closely, you can actually see that the Monaco Grand Prix logo is a part of the caseback itself. So it's one of my favorite things about all watches is when they have that exhibition caseback, so you can really see inside the caliber, the engine, or the motor of the watch. So I personally find that fascinating, but I find it just as fascinating how well these watches work. So you'll notice that it is a chronograph, right? We've got our standard pushers, stop, start, reset. We've got a crown that we can use to obviously build power, adjust date and time. But I do want to talk about these red accents. Red is the only official color of the sport of F1 or Formula One. And they use it for the chronograph function. So you'll notice up here, it's on the stop, start button has a red accent. You'll notice it on the bezel, but you'll also notice it on the big second hand. And if I get this thing going a little bit, I'll be able to show you where the 30-minute counter as well as the 12-hour counter also have these same red accents. But you'll notice that the actual minute and hour hand that you use for just telling time do not have that same red accent. And the same goes with the running second hand located at 9. Again, you are also able to see the day by the date window that is located at 3 o'clock. But the most fascinating thing about this watch has to do with the strap itself. So on a car, the tire is where the rubber meets the road. It's where the car interacts with society. It interacts with the earth, with the world. And on the watch, it's going to be in the bracelet or the strap. This is where the watch interacts with the rest of the world when it's on your wrist. And because of the fact that this watch is a racing edition, it's got everything about it has to do with racing, TAG Heuer went the extra step and they actually have a rubber strap, which is fitting since tires are generally made out of rubber, but they also designed it to have this really unique tread pattern. So you really get the look and feel of having a racing watch on your wrist. Come check it out at SwissWatchExpo.com. Subscribe, hit the bell. Let us get your feedback. I'd love to do more. If you've got a watch in mind, let me know. I'd love to bring you all the information.